The new Congress is sworn in, and the first order of duty is more stimulus checks. What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here with your second stimulus check and third stimulus check update. Now that the new members of Congress in the House and the Senate are sworn in, the first order of duty is the Cash Act 2.0, basically revising the Cash Act that has already passed the House, possibly with a stipulation or two to get more Republicans on board to pass the $2,000 stimulus checks this week. In addition to that, I have multiple reports now from you guys that you have received your $600 stimulus checks, and a lot of you guys that were pending until Monday have now got your $600 stimulus check. Let me know in the comments if you have received or have not received your $600 stimulus check. This is just the first batch that has gone out. Those are direct deposits, the actual checks and debit cards that are sent out through the mail. Let me know if you guys have received those yet either. I have not seen any reports of those yet being in your hands. Let me know if you've received a paper check or a debit card in the mail yet for your $600 stimulus check. And also let me know if you have received your $300 per week unemployment boost. I'm starting to see some few comments that certain states are receiving their $300 per week. Let me know if you've received your $300 per week unemployment boost and what state you're from, if you have received that or if you have it pending in your bank account. Don't forget to like this video, and if you're new here, subscribe down below so you don't miss out on updates on the $600 stimulus checks, the $2,000 stimulus checks that could be coming as early as this week, $300 per week, unemployment money, mortgage and rental assistance, PPP grants. We cover it all here on this channel. Now, it's an absolutely very big week going on. Today is the first full day of the new Congress being in with their first order of business to get the Cash Act repassed with the $2,000 stimulus checks. Tomorrow is the Georgia Senate runoff races that will determine if Mitch McConnell is still going to be in charge of the Senate. Literally by tomorrow, we can find out if Mitch McConnell loses his power, he can no longer delay the $2,000 stimulus check that has already passed the House. They'll have to repass that in the House now that the new Congress has come in. I believe it's the 117th Congress session with the new members that have been voted out and voted in. And they can pass that as early as literally within an hour or two. We already know it'll pass the House. They may make a revision or two to make it a little bit more palatable for even more Republicans in the Senate. But we've had senators, Republican senators, Josh Hawley and Lindsey Graham saying that it will pass the Senate. They think there is enough Republican senators to pass it as is. And remember that Cash Act that passed was a $2,000 stimulus check for adults, for children, and adult dependents. That's the one that passed the House that Mitch McConnell basically tabled and delayed. And now we're up to the Georgia Senate runoff races to see if he's going to lose his power. If he loses his power, if the Democrats win both of those seats tomorrow, he no longer will be the Senate majority leader and can no longer delay bills that will pass the Senate. And he honestly may have cost the Republicans that bill. We're going to talk about that and more. Let's hear from both Republicans and Democrats here regarding the $2,000 stimulus checks and the Senate runoff races, which is going to determine how many more stimulus checks and packages we get in the future.
More on this, Nevada Democrat Congresswoman who will be sworn in for another term later today, Susie Lee, joins me. Congresswoman,
Hi,
welcome.
Thank you. Happy New Year, Mike. Good to be with you.
Happy New Year. So the stakes in Georgia, here is Texas Senator Ted Cruz, and I'll ask you to respond.
These two Georgia Senate races on January 5th are, without exaggeration, the most important Senate races of our entire lifetime. If we see a Democratic majority, a Chuck Schumer majority, I think they will do generational damage. It will empower the extreme, angry leftist voices in the Democratic Party.
Congresswoman, your thoughts on the stakes in Georgia?
Listen, I agree that this is such a consequential election in Georgia, but most importantly, I think that this country has just been ravished economically, personally by this pandemic, and we need more than anything to be able to come together and really solve the problems facing millions and millions of Americans. We have 55 million Americans in poverty. 1 in 6 have entered food insecurity. So I think it's such an important time, regardless of who's the leader, that we come together and work to improve the lives of American people.
Looking ahead to the speaker vote this afternoon, any drama expected?
Listen, I think that the speaker has done her whipping and is confident that she has the votes to retain her title.
All right. Well, if she keeps the gavel, it may not necessarily be easy with a narrow majority. How do you basically navigate the range of your caucus from the squad on the left to more moderate members?
As you know, I'm a more moderate member, and I think most importantly, we have to look at what we've done in the past. And, when I look at this past year alone with the passage of the Families First Act and the CARES Act, it really was a demonstration that when faced with a crisis, we can work together and come forward in a bipartisan manner. I do think that, as we say, we're a big tent party, but ultimately we know that American people need help, especially in my home state of Nevada, which our economy has just been ravished by this pandemic, that nothing's more important than us coming together and working with whoever the leadership in the Senate is and getting aid passed to the American people.
Do you worry about 2 years of gridlock potentially with a very narrow majority in the House and maybe a 50-50 Senate?
Listen, that's the main reason I ran for Congress, was I was so frustrated by the gridlock here in Washington. I joined the Problem Solvers Caucus, which is half Democrats, half Republicans. As you know, we were instrumental in bringing leaders back to the table to pass this $900 billion package. So I think there has to be a place here in the halls of Congress for us to work together and compromise. And I think it's dangerous to think that the only way you can get something done is by controlling all arms of government. I think that the American people are craving us to work together. They're craving us to actually sit down and have these tough conversations. And perhaps I think the most dangerous thing about what's happening with respect to questioning the validity of the Electoral College on the 6th, that it will only further divide this hallowed body. And I hope that we can overcome that and work together, because there are so many millions of Americans who are suffering and need our help, and they need us to work together.
Speaking of that session on the 6th of this week, are you expecting fireworks?
Absolutely. As you know, there's reports of 140 Republicans who are poised to protest the Electoral College, in addition to the senators. And, to me, the question is, if they're questioning the validity of this election, they shouldn't be sworn in today. Because they were elected in the same election as this president. And so I just find it completely confusing. There have been lawsuits passed around in 50 states. William Barr, the president's own attorney general, has said these claims are baseless. And I think, the American people are craving for this to stop, for us to work together and solve the problems that they're facing.
All right. Congresswoman Susie Lee of the great state of Nevada, thanks for your time. Happy New Year.
Thanks, Mike. Happy New Year.
Now, the Wall Street Journal is calling the new 2021 year going forward the era of nonstop stimulus. And that is because we're now getting indications, especially from Dr. Fauci and other medical experts, that the pandemic is probably not going to go away for the majority of the year. Dr. Fauci said maybe by fall. We've only had 1% of people vaccinated now. And what does that mean? Another 6 to 9 months of the pandemic means multiple more stimulus packages, stimulus checks, unemployment boosts, eviction moratoriums, mortgage and rental assistance. It all has to happen, because if this is going to go on for another 9 months, people need help now more than ever. And that is exactly what we're starting to see now with this $900 billion package passed. and the immediate push to make those checks larger into $2,000. Now, the first part of that is really tomorrow, the Georgia Senate runoff races. If the 2 Senate seats are won by the Democrats will take control of the Senate, and Mitch McConnell will lose his power. He will no longer be able to table bills like the $2,000 stimulus check bill that passed the House, and he just doesn't want to put a vote to it. This can all change tomorrow, and then we can have those $2,000 stimulus checks passed and then start working on the next one when the Biden administration comes in the next 3 weeks. Well, that's unless President Donald Trump and the 140 Republicans do successfully contest the election on January 6th, which is Wednesday. The Democrats have taken an early lead in the Georgia early voting as early voting has ended. And the Georgia papers are saying that the Democrats are in the lead. And this is consistent with the polling results that we've seen, both Democrats currently leading in the polling of the Georgia Senate. State law mandates that no ballots be opened before election night on Tuesday, but Georgia's largest paper said its review showed more ballots were cast by Democrat-leaning demographics than ever before. A record total of 3 million early votes have been cast. Market Watch says that Black voters who generally support Democrats in the state by overwhelming numbers are voting in higher numbers than they did in the presidential election, reported by the Georgia paper. Turnout in rural and more conservative-leaning portions of the state have lagged. President Donald Trump is planning a last-minute rally today in Dalton in a last-ditch effort to rally the Republican faithful to the polls. And a lot of analysts are saying that Mitch McConnell may have dug his own grave here by not allowing the $2,000 stimulus check that passed the House with an overwhelming majority to not even be voted on in the Senate and be delayed up until this point, which can still be passed, but Mitch McConnell wants concessions. That may have cost the Republicans the Senate race and his majority power as more and more polls are coming in and the Democrats start to take higher and higher leads. That really has just changed in the last few days since Mitch McConnell blocked this $2,000 stimulus check. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Do you think this was the final nail in the coffin to the Republicans in the Senate that they might lose control because solely of what Mitch McConnell has done? I've actually even had some comments from you guys down below in the comments that say you're Republicans, but you actually think that the Senate needs to go Democratic for the next 2 years to kind of get the country back on track. Let me know your thoughts. I don't lean either way. I personally think it's, in general, probably better to not have one party control everything. Again, I'm not Democrat, I'm not Republican, because I never see one side all the time. I think in general, it's probably better to not have one party control everything, because then they can just pass their own wish list of everything they want. But in this case, because we're in a pandemic and Mitch McConnell is just so bullheaded about helping out the Americans, maybe it won't be the worst thing to happen. And again, it's so funny. I'll feature an article or an interview from Fox News, and I'll get comments down below saying, "I knew you were a Republican because you featured Fox News." But then the next episode, I'll feature something from CNN, and then I'll get comments saying, "I knew you were a Democrat because you featured something from CNN." Guys, I just go with what's the most important information to share with you guys. And this Senate race is happening with or without me or anybody. I have no determination over it. I'm not in Georgia. If you're in Georgia, make sure to go vote today. If you haven't early voted, speak your mind, cast your vote, let people know what you were thinking, whether you think it should be controlled by the Republicans or the Democrats. You're not really, at this case, this is a rare case where you're not actually voting for the individual. Even though you are, there's a lot bigger picture at stake here. It's the entire Senate and Congress at stake. If you think that should be Republican or Democrat, vote accordingly, because you're not really voting for the individual person at this point, in my opinion. You're voting for, should the Senate be Republican or Democrat? Should the Senate be controlled by Mitch McConnell? And what that will entail going forward, because if Mitch McConnell is the Senate Majority Leader, that will make a big difference going forward. Now, I fully do honestly think that Mitch McConnell will pass more stimulus bills going forward with the Biden administration. He's on record saying he knows they're going to have to pass more stimulus. He just passed the $900 billion stimulus package, and he drafted his own stimulus bill for $2,000 stimulus checks with some concessions that I personally don't think are that bad for the Democrats. I think if McConnell retains his seat, that they should strongly consider those concessions to pass the $2,000 stimulus checks this week, even with McConnell retaining his power. Remember, that's Mitch McConnell's own bill. He has his own version of a $2,000 stimulus check bill. That's $2,000 stimulus checks only for adults, not for children and not for adult dependents. But the $2,000 stimulus checks for adults is the vast majority of people. And if McConnell retains his power, I think the Democrats should immediately consider agreeing with Mitch McConnell's bill and passing that this week. That's why this is such a big week. Today's the first day of Congress as they push for the Cash Act 2.0, which is basically revising the Cash Act so that they can get the Republicans on board, which really is just a couple lines, changing a couple things in there. But also on Tuesday, we find out if the Senate goes, that's tomorrow, if the Senate goes Republican or stays Democrat. Then on Wednesday, we have the certification of the presidential election, which we have over 140 Republicans in the Senate and the House of Representatives that are going to object to certifying the election. And we could have a contested election as early as Wednesday. Yeah, it's going to be absolutely crazy. Let me know what you think is going to happen with all these situations. I will keep you updated. New videos come out at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There will be some late night videos this week for sure with all the big breaking news. Those happen at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you're subscribed with the bell icon on so you don't miss out on new updates. And you can click this top video here to watch my newest stimulus check video next. And this video teaches you how to start your own business selling products on Amazon FBA. I have dozens of students that have replaced their 9-to-5 income selling products on Amazon, and I teach them how to do that. Click on one of those videos to watch them next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.